It should be ready in just a minute.
Yep. Well, it popped up for me that we are now recording, streaming live. So I want to welcome everyone to the October 5th, 2020 MEPC officers meeting. First order of business is we are going to call the roll. So Treasurer Sam.
Here.
Secretary Sandra.
Here.
Vice President Adam. I see
Here.
you. You're back on mute. Yep, thumbs up. Great. Thank you. And President Erin here. All right, you're off mute now, Adam. So we're good.
Why don't you stay off mute unless
Yeah,
it's
just-
really noisy up there? So
Okay, next up on the agenda is the approval of minutes from September 14th, 2020, and the executive session minutes from July 6th, 2020.
I might note, Aaron, this should be the last piece of executive session minutes for some time. It was the only one we couldn't finalize last time. So I think we're done.
Great.
Thanks to Sandra for keeping good record of all of this.
Yes, that was not an easy task. I know that it was not easy. So thank you, Sandra. Does anyone want to make a motion at this time about those two sets of minutes, either to take them individually or to take them as a group?
Move that we take them as a group, both minutes.
Second.
Oh, that is fine. Was that you, Sam, were you moving to approve them?
Yes, sorry, that's a motion to approve the minutes as a complete set, all minutes included.
Great. And Adam, did I hear that that was the second on that?
That is what I seconded, yes.
Great. So the motion before us is that we approve the September 14th, 2020 officer meeting minutes plus the executive session minutes from July 6th, 2020. Any questions or conversations? Seeing none, this is a roll call. Sam?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Erin? Yes. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you so much. Next up is the review of contracts. Mark and/or Rebecca.
Could you share the screen, Sasha, on the pass-through contracts? There we go. So these were sent to you this morning. I did not, by Heidi, I did not edit them, but I did review them. I might have cleaned them up a tiny bit had I had the chance to edit them, but I don't think it was really necessary. There are a number of contracts here that relate to green communities, particularly the annual assessments. There are a number that relate to some of our activities of the Health and Medical Coordinating Coalition, particularly assigning folks as MRCs, and other than that, it's largely uneventful. This set of pass-through contracts is a little less focused on Homeland Security than our usual pass-through contracts, and as you can see, many of them also relate to the implementation of our urgent taxi, livery, and Hackney grant program with mass development. We are pretty much through that program now, and we will have funded close to $1 million in emergency transportation services throughout the Commonwealth. I'm very proud of that effort. Are there any questions?
Mark, just on that service, have you gotten any feedback on how it's worked or not worked, or how effective?
I would have to check with Eric Barassa on that. You know, honestly, a lot of these are still they've kind of just started. So some of them have been going on for a month or two, but others are just starting now. And I can check with Eric and see
No,
if
mostly just curious.
Yeah. and provide an update. We've heard no complaints or problems, and that usually indicates things are going well.
Okay, good. Okay.
No news is often good news. So Great. Any other questions or comments on pass-through contracts? Seeing none. Mark, do you want to take on revenue?
Yep, if Sasha could switch to the revenue contracts.
Awesome. Thank you, Sasha.
Here we are. We've added some additional translation services to the Lynn Housing Strategies project. This is already a big project, and it's a challenging project for reasons that I'm sure everyone can understand, but we're moving forward. I honestly think since the new planner came on board, I think we're moving forward a little more. Aaron Clausen, who I think many of you know, I think we're moving forward a little more smartly, although his presence doesn't eliminate the political difficulties of the project. We just have.
Yeah,
Could you shed any light on that, Mark, or would you rather not?
Well, I'll shed light on it if you are cautious in what you're doing. Yeah, it's a divided political situation. The mayor is more progressive on housing issues than the council and the planning board. Mayor is in his first term. He has not yet achieved control over a number of local boards and committees. There are, the odd thing is that there was no planning staff really in Lynn for many years before Aaron was appointed. Recently, the staff that does deal with housing and CDBG and zoning and all of those issues are off in entities that are under other commissions, which are in most cases not yet under the mayor's control. And the opposition to affordable housing is very intense and very racially tinged, with remarkable little desire to cover that up. And, it makes every step is a difficult step. And that said, we're moving forward. Nothing has been rejected yet. The sessions are happening. And we had a good session with 3 speakers about a month ago, including Crystal Cornegay, the head of mass development, and head of mass housing. And, I think we're moving forward. Our effort is always to try and bring into the process those folks, particularly tenants already living in the city who are already cost burdened, make a political statement about their desires and needs, because they are not often the ones whose views are reflected. And that's an ongoing challenge.
Thank you.
Helping the town of Hingham on developing a scope for a full climate action plan, so they can put that on their warrant. Also a great activity, working with the fabulous city of Cambridge, Sam, to do a project evaluation on ongoing evaluation regarding their CHIP, which stands for, I think, Rebecca might help me here, Community Health Investment Program. Am I right? I don't see Rebecca at the
I
moment.
don't think that's right. I think but it's close.
It's close.
Community
Okay.
health is right.
Okay, that's fine. Heck of a lot of acronyms continuing in the public health arena, but this is some ongoing work we're doing. We're doing a substantial amount of work on the health impacts of air pollution, and more recently, its relationship to COVID risk. So continuing some of those efforts there. South Shore Site Readiness Program, which is, I'm sorry, misspelled. The word readiness is a project that we're undertaking with Mass Development and with the South Shore Chamber of Commerce regarding the development of particular key sites in the South Shore. So we're continuing our work on that. Thank you, Aaron, for the clarification on the meaning of CHIP. Mass Housing has asked us to do an analysis relating to middle-income housing production in targeted communities. We were a little, not sure we were exceptionally eager to take that on, because we're a little worried that kind of focused on justifying their existing program. But we decided, as we often do, that we might be able to have some influence through this process. And Tim is already planning a follow-up activity that will be more our own but we'll utilize the data through this particular project. So we're moving ahead with that. It's fairly small. We're producing a zoning and development analysis in Stoughton. We always like to do this work in Stoughton, which is also an OCPC community and actually depends on OCPC for most of their work, particularly in the transportation arena. So we're going to be working with Stoughton on this. Stoughton is also one of our chosen communities to participate in the REMAP program. Maybe I should update people on that at some point. So a lot of work with Stoughton, which is good. Always a community we want to pay attention to. We are doing yet additional transferring of money to communities through the Mass Department of Public Health, an ongoing activity throughout COVID, additional $400,000 put into this effort. And we're very proud and pleased to be able to continue that work. I think is that it, or is there another month lurking underneath there? No.
Great. Any questions for Mark?
I would say that, you know, the contracts are continuing apace. There's no slowdown. And I'm very proud of the team for having just successfully interviewed for a new project in Rockport, community with which we've done relatively limited work. And so I was very glad that we were hired for that $50,000 project moving forward. That just happened a couple of days ago. So it's not on the list yet.
What's the project, Mark?
I knew you would ask that, and I'm trying to remember. I want to say visioning.
No,
but
it's
I
a
think
review
I might
of,
be wrong
no, it's a
about
review of their zoning.
that. What was that, Rebecca?
It's a review of their zoning.
Okay.
And I know that the team was excited to do it because it was also a skill that they're looking to build. So I think we did some visioning, Mark, with Rockport through a DLTA project. And so I think
you're right. And we also did a
scope that-
TOD project.
yeah, the review of the zoning can align with that visioning.
Thank you.
Could you just speak to the flow of contracts? So they're continuing apace? Are they back up to pre-COVID levels? Are they more than, less than?
I don't know if Rebecca or Sheila's not on the line, have a more data-oriented number here, but my sense is, and we reviewed this before deciding on raises, that the flow of contracts, both in terms of number and amount, was strong. I think the most important comparison is not to what it was pre-COVID, but to what it is in the budget. And a lot of departments have brought in new work that was not in the budget, and virtually no projects that were in the budget. In fact, I cannot think of one that was in the budget has not come through.
Is it continuing to grow? I mean, are we on an upward curve here? Is it continuing to go more and more and more?
My sense is that we're stable at the
Stable.
moment. Rebecca, do you have anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I would say we're stable. I would remind folks that we had a number of open positions that we held on filling. And so these are positions where folks left. These are not new positions. And I think we're slowly going to start filling those open positions. A data services position has been posted, and we're working on a transportation post to fill what is a gap in that department. And I would say, the contracts are up. We also have, many more what I would call pass-through programs than we normally do, with both the increase in the HMCC work, the continued Homeland Security work, the taxi program, and also the climate safe cooling program. There's just a lot of dollars that are also flowing through. So sometimes I think it's hard to get a sense of it. But as Mark said, we were very conservative in the budget. We didn't put anything in the budget that we already didn't have in hand. So that's a different approach than we normally take. And so anything that we get in is above and beyond what we budgeted. I would say that I think also, we're well-served communities. Local aid was level funded this year. And, that is I think that and the CARES money are gonna help our communities get through. I still have, a lot of concerns about FY22. I think for our communities, I think for the state, and we really have to see what happens with DLTA. We have to remember we still don't have a state budget yet for this fiscal year.
Okay, but that sounds like certainly not bad news at any rate. So good, glad to hear it. Good. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, great. Sasha, we are all set with this screen then. Great, now I can see everyone. Hello. All right, next up is hiring and staff updates. Rebecca or Mark?
Rebecca,
Rebecca.
she just did it, I
as
think, but
As I just mentioned, we have posted for a data services position. This is a position in our research division that Saliki had. And so I know that we're continuing to get applications for that position, and we will be posting it for a position in our transportation department soon. We have a small handful of interns, a couple of which have been able to stay on from the summer. And that is it. I would also I think I mentioned, but our HR generalist is out on parental leave. And so we have brought back a former intern to provide some support, and that's going really well.
Great. Anything else on that or any questions? Good stuff. All right, next up on the agenda is the project update, but it says TBD. So should we just skip to Metro Common or?
no, I asked for a variety of reasons that we take at this point the one matter of other business and also the further discussion of my salary. These do not need to be executive, but I would ask the staff to leave for just a few moments and then come back. We can let you know. Now, I don't even know if Sasha can do that or if she has to make someone else the host.
I am looking right now. I don't think I can leave, but I can turn the volume down and turn my camera off. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a way of getting Sasha back?
I believe
Yeah.
Mark has my phone number. You could
I do.
send me a message.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I don't expect this will take very long.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great.
Becca's off. Is that right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there are two issues. They're not actually related to one another, but I want to take them in a certain order. I want to take the matter of other business first, which Erin is aware of, but I don't know if she's communicated with other officers. No. Okay.
Nope.
I am asking you if it would be all right for me to take a leave from MAPC beginning on Thursday and lasting through the election. And I'm hoping the end date indicates the reason for the leave. Because I've told a few department heads and they wondered if I was sick. I'm not sick. Well, maybe I am, but I've been asked to assist with the campaign, the coordinated Democratic campaign in Maine. And I would like to do that. I think it's worthwhile to do it. I'll be doing some other voter protection issues in other states, but it will be mostly focused on the campaign in Maine. I have discussed this with Erin and Rebecca. My plan would be that I will be at MAPC through Wednesday of this week. I would be gone starting on October 8th, and I would return on Thursday of election week, which is October 5th. That's 19 work days. I would continue to work 1 day a week, actually 4 days during that time. I would take vacation time and 1 discretionary day for the remaining days. And I have already begun working with Rebecca on the things that I would continue to do during that period of time. One of the very important ones is continuing to work with her. So in about a week or two, we can get a full work plan out to the executive committee for their review at the October meeting. I would not be expecting to be present for the executive committee meeting, and I would not really be making most of the decisions and judgments that I usually make. Those would be handed to Rebecca, who I'm sure you know is fully capable of handling them. I think I just believe it's very important that one person be in charge at a time, not two people. And so the meetings of our coalition boards, phone calls with the mayors and lieutenant governor, executive committee meeting, I would not be participating in those. I will kind of be devoting my mind and my attention to the election work and a limited number of things on that list that I would continue to work on. So Sandra, or Aaron, I'm sorry, I'm turning it back to you.
No, it's fine. Sandra, go ahead.
Thanks. So that sounds great, Mark. Can you just clarify, did you say you're working in MAPC 1 day a week?
Yes, actually 4 out of the 19 days, yes. That will enable me to, it'll be scattered hours, and to be perfectly frank, Sandra, it will almost certainly be at night. But Rebecca and I have put together a list of about 10 things that still need my attention, and I would be doing those things.
Great. Any other question, Adam?
And I think you said this, but to make sure I heard it right, so you'll be using some combination of compensable time for the 15 days that you would not be working?
Yes, I'll be using 3 things. I will be taking, well, it's 19 days. 4 of them will be working. That leaves 15. I'm going to take 13 days of vacation, 1 day of discretionary leave, and 1 day I'll flip with November 11th, when I will be working.
Got it. Okay.
Great. Any other questions or comments?
I don't think there's an action that needs to be taken because it's fundamentally use of vacation time, which is not something that I've usually brought to the officers for approval. But I certainly wanted you to know, and I want to make sure it's okay with you because, you know, it's a difficult time, but it's not like it was in April or May. I feel entirely comfortable doing this, and so does Rebecca.
Yes, Adam.
So unless the contract says something to the contrary that I'm not aware of, I don't think we should take any vote because, as you just stated, you are using time that your employment with the organization entitles you to. I think I'm very appreciative that you are letting us know and giving us the level of detail that you're providing. But I actually think a vote would be inappropriate.
Okay. And I agree. The one related thing is regarding November's, oh no, Sam. Mark, can you text Sasha?
Yes.
And there's just one related thing, and Sam, we will get back to you because I believe you probably have a question. One related thing is regarding our November officers meeting. Currently, it is scheduled for Monday, November 2nd. And I'm asking the officers if we can do it instead on Monday, November 9th. For multiple reasons. One, it's the day before the election. Number 2, Mark is not back yet. Not that we can't proceed without him, but I would like him to be back. And I just think it really doesn't matter if we just delay it 1 extra week. But I wanted to see how everyone felt about that before I scheduled it for November 9th. Good?
And Sam is off.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Sam, about November 9th opposed to November 2nd?
Yes.
Okay. And Sandra?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. So that housekeeping item is out of the way. I know, Mark, we talked about that last week, but I'm working the election locally as well. So I would prefer not to have officers the day before. Sam?
Yeah. I mean, no objections to Mark's plan. Is there anything, Mark, that we should be aware of? You obviously are working with your staff on what they need to be aware of, but anything, officers, that might be coming up between now and when you return?
No, not really. I mean, there are, you know, the eviction issue is a big issue that I've been deeply involved in. Rebecca, Tim, and I met with Steve Kadish yesterday, Sunday, at late in the afternoon, and 2 members of his team. I don't know if you know, the governor has appointed Steve to help develop policy on the eviction question.
Steve who?
Steve Kadish, his former chief of staff, who also chaired the Transportation Futures Commission and also dealt early in the COVID epidemic with the issue of food insecurity. It does seem like anytime there's a really tough issue, the governor will bring Steve in to deal with it. I don't know how many more of these Steve has available, but and you know, that's a big issue. It's not really an officer's issue because it's probably not legislative. It's regulatory and programmatic, but it is a big issue. The REMAP program, which I'll talk more about later, is, you know, a big undertaking programmatically, but Betsy and Raul, under Rebecca's guidance, will be able to handle that during the month that I'm gone. You know, Sam, it's never the things you know about that are the problems. It's the things you don't know about yet, as every town manager knows. So, but I'm only a phone call away, and we have a very strong team. They're not going to need to call me. So, very much.
I will make a comment that to no one in particular that there may be a Biden administration coming up. I just want to make that comment.
You better knock on something, Sam.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. So Mark, just as a matter of operations,
Yeah.
Would you prefer you do not want it, the 19 days, since you have your list, are if we do have anything that would need to be contacted, we go directly to Rebecca, and then she will, if it's on that, you know, that mini list of 10 items, which probably isn't, she will forward it to you, so it's to your attention, but otherwise we just go right to her, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you should only let me know if you think I need to know. You should just work with her.
Okay, nope, I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure we were all kind of on the same page about that. Great.
I mean, you all have my phone number, I think, so you can all, you know, if there's anything you need to discuss with me, even if it's only informally, you can do that. But I don't expect to be needed on many of these things. Rebecca will be in charge from an executive perspective for the next month.
Okay, and Maine needs you more, so
Well, how about that?
I hope.
Can I ask a technical question before we switch off topic? Does she have all signing authority on everything? Is she? Okay.
Yes,
Okay, great.
and so do other people, so.
Okay.
Mark and Martin.
Anything else on this topic before we get
That's
to
it
the
for
next
this
one?
topic, but there is the executive director's salary topic next.
Yes.
Okay.
So if it's okay with everyone, let's move on to that item. Go ahead, Mark.
So, based on my conversation with Aaron earlier, we decided to take up the question of whether or not I should receive a raise. As you know, we have just approved and new raises have gone into effect. It's a 2% increase for all staff. And I would say about maybe 8 or 10 special increases that more limited in number and more limited in size than they normally would have been. But largely focused on, you know, a few cases where we felt there were, you know, equity issues that with people of comparable experience that needed to be addressed. There are a few of those every year, but not many. Since I think we've done a good job at addressing those. And then in a few cases, honestly, we gave some special raises for people who we felt were, you know, positions in or talents in high demand and they could leave. So we're always worried about that. And we made a couple of adjustments, particularly one in IT that relates to that. I never know with those kinds of things whether or not you really keep the person or you just increase the starting point for their negotiations with a new employer, but we try. And we had budgeted in the FY21 budget a total package for raises of $175,000. We had anticipated about 2% on October 1st or January 1st. So we budgeted 175 and we spent 173. So we're very on target in terms of the impact and what's in the budget. Of course, there was no raise implemented for me since that's not my decision, that's your decision. I know we discussed the possibility of a 2% raise, but there's also information. So honestly, I was not aware of it. I had to ask that I think I should relay to you, which is the budget has me in at 197,000 for the year. That is the amount. You'll recall I was at 217. I took a cut down. I think it was a $15,000 cut to 202, and I was going to take another $5,000 cut. I'm not sure I'm getting these numbers exactly right. That's approximately right, which I did not end up taking on July 1st. But the number that's in the budget assumes that I would have taken that full reduction of $20,000. So there is no more money in the budget as it presently stands to increase my salary, because you folks have generously insisted that I receive 207, which was the middle point. That number is already too high for the budget. So it's not my feeling that you folks really have the leeway. I mean, you always do, but I don't think it would be appropriate to increase my salary at this point in time, since it's already $10,000 over what's budgeted. The appropriate time to do that, if you wanted to, would be when we do the mid-year budget, and we could reassess the amount that should be listed for my salary at that point in time. If the numbers continue to be positive, then my request would be that as of January 1st, I go back up to my prior salary, which is 217, plus a 2% raise. The main thing that's affected by, honestly, will be DLTA. If DLTA comes through at that level, then I would feel comfortable at its usual level of 2.8 million for the state. It's about 700,000, 750,000 for MAPC. Then I would feel comfortable with that increase. If it does not come through, then I probably won't. So anyway, that's the situation. We can discuss it amongst ourselves. You can also have me leave for a few minutes if you folks want to discuss it yourself. That does not need to be executive session, but you can certainly discuss it without me if that's your desire.
So just so I have an understanding of kind of like recapping what you just said, you are currently at 207. You, after review of data and financial health of the organization, you opted to give 2% increases to staff, plus about 10% of that staff between 8 and 10 employees got special increases that were in excess, not excess, on like larger than the 2% standard increase. You feel at this time that an increase for you would not be requested, but instead you would rather wait to the mid-year budget and the mid-year review, in which case at that time you would ask, or you would hope to ask, that you would be put back to where you were pre-COVID, plus the 2%, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's mainly because the budget currently has me in at 197, and I'm not at 197, I'm at 207.
Right. Okay. Questions?
Mark, it sounded like the numbers on the contract numbers that the 207 will be manageable, even though it's not what was budgeted.
It is certainly manageable.
Okay. And then my second question is, how do you, just maybe this is just me, how do you feel about this? This is what, I mean, I'll speak for myself that I think the reason that the officers wanted to talk about this was we didn't want you to skip past it, although it was something we'd agreed about. And so what's your feeling about the whole?
Well, I appreciate that you want to discuss it. It is in the contract that we negotiated. I expected to discuss it, to be perfectly honest. I would have hoped at this point in time that I could have had some portion of my reduction in salary restored and maybe a 2% increase since everybody else got a 2% increase. But then I realized that we're already in the budget at 197 and I'm already $10,000 beyond that. And I don't feel comfortable asking for more under those circumstances. So I would rather say, let's adjust my salary at the point where we adjust the budget as well. And, is it a little less than I was hoping I would be getting over the course of the next 3 months? Yes, it is. I didn't really, I thought I would be asking you for 2% raise and maybe for restoration of the 217, but I don't feel comfortable with that. So I think that this is another alternative about how to go.
Okay.
And the change would take effect in January 1st, did you say?
Yes. So I would remain at 207 between now and December 31st. And if things remain stable, particularly DLTA, then I would go to, I don't know, I think it's 221, something like that. These are numbers rounded to, all of my numbers are rounded to the thousands.
So, but that decision would be made at the January officers meeting, December officers meeting?
I mean, we will start working on the, I think Sheila will start working on the mid-year budget even during my absence over the next month, and there'll be finance committee meetings. I would imagine that it would be best perhaps to do that in December.
Okay.
At the December officers meeting, so that we always try and avoid this issue of retro pay. It's annoying for the finance staff. So if you were going to do an increase effective January 1, then I would probably ask that be done in December.
Right. I don't want to create any additional grief for the finance team.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have a state budget by then.
Yeah, that's the one trick, but keeping my fingers crossed. I think they want to have a budget before they go away for Thanksgiving. I think it would be really hard to go away at that point in time and be 5 months behind in a budget. I think would look kind of ridiculous.
Adam?
So I want to balance the fact that I came to the meeting today wanting to vote affirmatively to give you the raise that was in the contract, with chastising you for not putting us in a position to be able to take that vote. It sounds like a lot of work went into putting together the package, the financial package, to allow for the raises for everybody else without putting enough in there. And I don't know enough about the inner workings of the budget to know exactly what happened, but I'm being honest and expressing a little bit of frustration that we're not able to meet up with what we had committed to in the contract. But given everything you laid out, I think taking that vote later this calendar year, hopefully we can make it all work.
Thank you, Adam. Sam?
Yes, just Mark, can you remind me of the mid-year budget calendar? I remember it tends to get approved in February, but maybe I'm just way off base with that. Doesn't it?
Yeah, you're not off base with that.
At the March.
Yeah, because we kind
Council
of
meeting.
process it in January, because December you get into holiday time and then it kind of gets into January and then it goes to the council in February is my recollection.
So I think you're right. It's the work plan on the fiscal year side. The budget gets done on time, but the work plan gets done late. Mid-year, the budget gets done a little late. That's true. Still, I do not think. I think that I, with your backing, could simply say, this is what you should put in the budget for my salary going forward on January 1st, and they would do that. And I don't think it's going to be that big a difficulty. It's big numbers to me, but it's small numbers compared to the budget. So I think if I instruct them to that effect, then the officers would still be in a position in December,
Okay, no, that's,
even though you're right, our mid-year budget work will not yet be complete.
yeah, it tends to happen early in the
Yeah.
calendar year.
It also might be easier for the mid-year budget to know definitively how the officers are going to vote so they can adjust the remainder of the mid-year budget accordingly as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could
You
take
know
a
what I mean?
motion.
It's less assumptions that
Yeah.
way.
If you
For the
wanted to,
remainder.
either today or at the November meeting, you could take a vote on your intent regarding my salary. And that would mean that it's not just me, telling the staff what I think my salary is going to be, but there would be an indication of your intent. And you could frame it in that way, not as a definitive action, but as an indication of intent.
Well, I think the contract that we agreed upon says the intent. To me,
That's true.
like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like we need to take an additional vote because it is, the decision we make in December is really contingent on the health of things that may be outside our control. We're hopeful
only thing that
that
wasn't-
it goes in one direction, so we're able to honor that contract language, but we need to wait. That's why we're waiting 2 months.
The only thing that wasn't in the contract, Aaron, was the contract simply assumes my salary is 207. There's no mention of what happened in the past. And there's actually no mention of restoration. And I just want to be clear with you. I hope it's not overstepping that I would hope I could be restored to the previous point plus the increase of 2%. The contract just says Mark's salary is 207, and he will come back and the board will discuss whether or not to make a raise commensurate with the standard raise to the other staff members or something else.
Okay. Any other questions or?
That would mean that you would have had about 6 months of a reduced salary,
8 months.
8 months.
I guess my only other point or observation is this will be just as you're returning from your time off. So we'll have to get right back into it when you return to make sure we're all up to speed. Because it seems perfectly reasonable. I'm going to say my hunch is that the numbers will be okay this year and that we'll be able to do the staff salary and address this issue. But I guess the DLTA is a question mark. So we'll have to get that figured out.
Okay.
Okay.
If there's
And maybe,
nothing else,
Sam,
we
you
can get other people back.
Yeah. And Sam, perhaps you have a conversation with Sheila about our previous conversations and intentions, particularly since the executive session minutes are available now, since they've been approved and released. Like it's.
I absolutely, if Mark has no objection to me just being quite open with
No.
Sheila. What we're
That's
thinking.
fine.
Okay.
I mean, I asked Sheila for the information that I've just presented to you. Like I wanted to know how the budget amount for raises compared to the actual amount for raises. And I wanted to know what was in the budget for my salary. So all that information is like, I didn't tell her why I was asking, but she won't be surprised.
Okay.
All right, so I am going to, if it's all right with everyone, I'm going to ask Sasha, Rebecca, Eric Hove, and
Okay.
Lizzie Goebel to come in. Is that
Oh.
okay?
Yeah, that's what's coming.
All right. So I think Metro Common is next.
Yep. And it's nice that we unintentionally, I didn't realize I did it, we agreed on the change of the next officers meeting. So that was another item on the agenda that has already been checked off. So what's remaining on the agenda is the Metro Common update and then kind of a quick update on the fall council meeting and any other business not known at the time of the posting. So we are doing great, guys.
All right.
Give them just a couple of moments
Totally fine.
to come back in.
I wanted to mention that the date of the executive committee is my birthday, so I'm just really happy about that because there's no place I'd rather be.
Good.
Oh,
Wonderful.
we'll have to do you'll have to get like a party hat for the meeting. Hey,
Hi,
Sasha.
Sasha.
I was hoping for food, Erin.
Oh, sorry.
There's Eric and Rebecca. Everyone's coming in very quickly. That's great.
I love that. All right, Rebecca, you're unmuted, and Eric, now you're unmuted.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. And here's Lizzie. Just wait till great. Everyone is in. Welcome back or welcome for those who are just joining us. So next up on the agenda is the Metro comment update, Eric and Lizzie.
Good morning. I'm going
Morning.
to share screen. It's been a while since I've seen everybody at this venue, but wanted to give you just a kind of a quick update on where things are and reminder of the overall plan for the plan. We're in the last 9 months of the plan, believe it or not. It's been a fast and furious summer. We had a lot of action area workshops. And now we're basically pivoting into policies and scenarios as the main activities really unfolding over the fall and winter. And that's going to be the main focus of our engagement. But I just wanted to share a couple slides with you on overall components of the plan, and then turn it over to Lizzie to talk about timeline, what's happened recently, and then the plan for the rest of the fiscal year, which is when we'll have the plan wrapped up and ready for release. Vision and goals. We spent most of the first year of the plan working on that element. So we do have the provisional goals already. We are continuing to listen for any changes that are warranted to those before we finalize them. So that is something we're tracking through our engagement. The trends, forecasts, and forces. This is the work that Sarah Philbrick is leading with support from Tim and others in data services primarily. They've actually been doing a lot of work over the last few months on creating the land use model and starting to actually get some preliminary results from the model runs, looking at changes in land use and what that means for things like greenhouse gases. So we're starting to see those results, and we'll be able to share those over the fall. And what we're planning on right now is moving into the driving forces. And this is one of our approaches in scenario modeling, where we're looking at big forces outside of our control or largely outside of our control. Things like, how do people decide they're going to get around transportation wise and over the long term, and what impacts these choices these choices will have on things like land use as well. The actionary content, like I said, we've been mostly working this summer on the action areas, and that's been the focus of the workshops, really focusing on those big challenges and opportunities and where we should be aiming our actions, our interventions. And then Kasia and Lizzie Wyatt have been leading up the policy recommendations. We have the first set of draft recommendations that are going through internal review right now. The second set of policy writers are probably say midway through their first drafts, and we'll be taking these out publicly in late fall, early winter, starting those conversations. And then we're also turning to some of the longer term content. We're calling it big questions, or kind of those big struggles we'll have to figure out over the long term. So things that are a little bit longer term than the policy recommendations, which are more, the next couple of legislative sessions in length, where the big questions are things we'll be struggling with kind of over the longer term. And meanwhile, research has been rolling out. The last big release we had was over the summer, the diversity deficit report. And we're planning for additional releases throughout the rest of the 9 months. And then just finishing up on the architecture, the other kind of big set of components that are part of the plan are basically decision support and implementation guidance. So we have the policy recommendations in terms of what legislative and other short-term actions, but then this gets into the, so how do you actually do this at the local level, and help to understand the steps needed for implementation. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to turn it over to Lizzie to talk about timeline. I think she needs to be unmuted.
Oh, Sasha, she needs help.
You guys run a
Thank
tight
you.
ship here at officers.
You're good.
Good, I
Just today.
understand. I get it. Thank you. And I was just going to talk for a couple minutes about sort of where we've been and what the plan is for moving forward. So please do feel free to interrupt me if you have specific questions on any of this, or if you'd like to hear a little bit more about something that I mentioned. So this is just an overview of the last 9 or 10 months of what's happened. So we had a number of in-person events in the winter. We pivoted to take into account COVID-19 and have done everything virtual since. And as Eric mentioned, the focus has really been on the sort of phase 2 challenges and opportunities. What are the things within each of the 5 action areas that this plan will absolutely need to address? So that's reflected on this timeline in May through August. And again, the policy work has been going strong. So we have our first 6 drafts completed, and then we'll have a number, I think 14 more drafts coming out over the next few months. So Kasha and Lizzie Wyant are working really hard on those, as well as a number of other staff. So next slide. So for the rest of the year, we are focusing primarily on having focus groups with both nonprofits, grass tops, organizations that represent populations who are traditionally underserved in planning, and then also making sure that we talk to the subject matter experts about the policies that they have expertise on. So Emily Torres-Cullinan is in the process of scheduling a lot of those focus groups to get input on the policy. And we'll also be asking people about the driving forces or those future uncertainties. So saying, if certain things were to happen around transportation, what do you think some of the impacts might be in our region, especially on some of the policies that we've put forth? So that'll be the focus of the rest of the year. And then as we move into the final months of the plan, we are planning on having a sort of virtual roadshow. So going around to different organizations, especially ones we may have talked to in the beginning of the plan, to share the content that we've made and receive feedback on our recommendations. We'll also be building out the more long-term and 30-year content for the plan. So the policy work that's going on right now is really geared towards 2030. And we want to make sure that we have sort of a roadmap, a set of policies or recommendations that are longer term as well to help guide the region. So we'll be formulating those based on a lot of the feedback we've gotten, and then integrating those and getting feedback over the next 9 or so months between now and June. So we'll start finalizing and presenting the final plan to our Community Engagement Advisory Committee, our External Advisory Committee, to you, to our Executive Committee, and then finally to the MAPC Council. And once that's hopefully approved, we'll spend about 3 months doing a well thought out plan launch to get the plan into the world and to build support for implementation, which we'll be doing all along as well. That is what I have for you today, but I'm happy to take any questions. I'm sure Eric is as well.
Great. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment as usual.
Oh,
but if somebody else wants to
I
talk,
can't see you, Sam, because the screen is shared. But Sam,
if somebody else would like to talk first.
no, it's
Should
fine.
I-
Go ahead.
Should I stop the sharing?
Sure.
All right.
Now I can see everyone.
One of the things, so random thought, another Sam random thought. One of the things I've been thinking that I have struggled a little bit with, I did a little Zoom, some Googling, would be to look back 30 years to 1990 and see what that looked like. That may or may not work. And if I come up with anything great, I'll share it with you. But what about, could you, or just a thought, create a little time capsule right now of 2020. So when they get to 2050, they have something that say, oh my gosh, can you believe we did that then? But it would be very interesting, because it would be very interesting for somebody who was around in 1990, which I definitely was, to say, oh yeah, that's what the world looked like then. And it might be interesting, since you're in the process of doing this, to do it now, so that when you are doing a plan 10 years from now or 20 years from now or whatever, somebody can go back and open up the time capsule and say, wow, this is what the world looked like in 2020.
Can we bury a Cadillac Escalade that gets 13 miles a gallon?
Well, I mean, the list goes on. Like,
The sub basement is waiting, Eric.
I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around that 1990 was 30 years ago, but
yeah. But anyway, random
seems
thought.
like 10 years ago. That's why. Okay.
My original thought was, could you send out people with their cell phones or with cameras and just visually record the Boston region right now? But then I thought, well, you could also add in all the technology we have today, blah, blah, blah. Sorry.
That's a great question, Sam, because we are actually creating a Metro Common documentary called Living Together. That's actually going to be a snapshot of all around different subregions. What is the lived experience of folks right now, especially as it relates to different topics in planning? So a little bit of that, I mean, maybe a lot of that will be captured in that documentary that's currently happening.
That would be a good way of doing it. I mean, other than the burying of the Cadillac, I think that's probably the best way we have to memorialize things at this moment in time.
But I was thinking, like, if you look at what I would call the green monster, so the elevated roadway through Boston, people can't imagine, somebody who moved here 10 years ago can't imagine that. Or the combat zone 30 years ago or 35 years ago. It's hard for somebody to really imagine that's what it was, that's what it looked like, but it was like that. And it might be very interesting just to get that kind of point in time, you know, turn all your people out in the region and just ask them to point their cell phone camera at what they see around them. And then you'll have a visual record of, wow, can you believe that 30 years from now? People will be like, anyway.
People can't believe Al Vellucci or Vinnie Pirro either, Sam.
Exactly, right, exactly.
Talk about Cambridge and Somerville politics.
Right, exactly. Anyway, just a thought, random thought.
All right.
So, a really fun idea.
Great. The documentary sounds really cool too. Any other questions or comments? Adam or Sandra, you good?
I would say only that I think that the planning project is really coming together. I think we see the fruits of a lot of hard work pre-COVID, but also during the last 6 months in so many of the areas that Eric and Lizzie addressed: scenario planning, projections, policy recommendations, action areas. They're coming to a point where you can actually see the results. And that's one of the reasons. We'll discuss this a little later. I might actually just keep Eric and Lizzie on the phone for this. I think we'll probably decide to focus the fall council meeting on Metro Common accomplishments and where we stand at the moment, and do some small groups to particularly get, you know, further input, but also to familiarize people with where we are in this planning project, because we're supposed to be done in June of next year, and that's awfully big in the window, as they say. So
great. Any other thoughts? I'm just pulling up, making sure the fall council meeting is on my calendar.
I think it's is it the 18th?
The 21st.
Yes.
21st.
Oh,
That executive committee?
okay. Yeah.
The fall council meeting, yes, is Wednesday, November 18th. Did I get that right? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Everyone's nodding. Thank you. I have to put that on my list of things to put.
You have to be there, Erin.
I heard. No excuses. Okay.
Even though there's no assessment vote this time.
Well, you know, I had so much fun at our last virtual council meeting. Why would I miss it?
Yeah.
So that sounds good about a Metro Common update being like the feature topic at Fall Council. I think that's actually a really great idea. Is there anything else on this topic? But thank you, Eric and Lizzie. Seeing none, thank you, Eric and Lizzie, for joining us and updating us on that and engaging and in this conversation. So thank you so much. And I look forward to the Fall Council meeting too.
Okay, and Eric and Lizzie can stay on. So I wanted to discuss two things in regard, is the Fall Council meeting the next on the agenda, Erin?
Oh, sure. Yep.
Okay, just
Yeah.
two things. First of all, the idea that I put forward, and which sadly I have not had an opportunity to discuss with Rebecca beforehand, but making the Focus Metro future a Metro Common as opposed to another. Are you okay with that, Rebecca?
Yes, I thought we've had conversations about that, so I'm
Okay,
totally
fine.
on board. That's great.
So we'll do that. That means no kind of separate subject or speaker. We do have several awards that we will probably be giving. There are 3 under consideration. I think we should do the Davidson Award for staff appreciation. There's a lot to appreciate. I have a feeling that this may surprise Rebecca, that we actually could do a Legislator of the Year award this year. I think a lot of people have stood up in ways that haven't necessarily been quite so obvious to us for the past year or so. I do want to just say something for you folks to be aware, although I don't think we need to mention it in the minutes, and that is that don't think we can do the Mann Award. Rick Mann, who I think all of you know, has suffered a really difficult loss in his family over the course of the last month, a very young person. And I don't think we should be bothering him in the next month with this. I think we can, I mean, I honestly don't even know if the winter meeting is going to work, but we'll have another Mann Award. I just think we have to be respectful of his space. And should we decide that it's necessary, or necessary is the wrong word, that it would be a really good time to recognize one or more local officials for some of their exceptional leadership during the COVID crisis, which is something that has sort of been in my mind. I'm sure it's been in Rebecca's mind as well. We could figure out another way to do it without it being the Mann Award. So that's my brief summary, and we'll see if anyone has anything to add to that, and I'll be right back. I'm just shutting the coffee off because it's boiling over. So.
Yeah, I would just add, I have asked the team to really think about, utilizing breakout rooms or opportunities for folks to get to engage and interact. I think, it's been nice to have speakers, but I know part of why our community comes together to our meetings is to be able to see other planners or other interested parties from across the region. And I'm sure, 7 or 8 months in, that's lacking for folks. And so I think we're going to try to have some creative opportunities for engagement.
Yeah, we're definitely brainstorming this week on possible approaches, and we definitely we're on board with looking at ways to kind of be innovative in terms of breaking out into smaller groups. Also, are considering, is there an opportunity for a national speaker that we could pull in as a tie-in as well? So, definitely in full brainstorm mode, and I think we'll have a proposal probably by the end of the week in terms of how we'd like to move forward.
I think it would also be helpful too if we knew kind of the areas in which you wanted more engagement. It would help to ask those delegates and alternates to pull in people from their communities to engage in these kind of conversations. Like for instance, like I do not ask, or elected officials are typically not engaged in MAPC planning processes. But, if I knew like certain things like, diversity or equity challenges at municipal levels, or how we're going to address that is going to be talked about, I will select, or I will reach out personally to people locally to have them engaged. I would just need to know those ahead of time. But I do think that, when we think about like a regional plan, I think that having more voices as part of the plan is obviously a positive thing. And we can target that through this kind of platform, because there is such a way to engage people differently and participate. And I think it would result in a better plan. So I know I do that locally in the subregion. If there's a topic, I call out people particularly to join those subregion meetings, but I think we can do that on even larger scale, particularly through the delegates and alternate delegates.
Yeah, I totally agree, Erin. And, on top of that, I do know Eric and his team are also planning another series of municipal engagement. If you remember, we had all those wonderful breakfasts. I don't think we'll be able to do that, but, they are trying to think about really, come winter, some ways to really get electeds and other municipal leaders engaged in the planning process as well.
That's really the time to bring them in. That would be excellent. We don't need, we invite and we expect mayors and town managers to participate in that, but those forums are totally open to other elected officials. And in fact, I think when we held the breakfast, a lot of town managers chose to include like a member of the Board of Selectmen or a member of the planning board, and that's completely cool. So
yeah, we also had a ton of city councilors that showed up, particularly for the inner core, where many of the city councilors are. So I'm hoping we can re-engage that group without the delicious breakfast, but we'll see.
Great. Any other questions or comments for that?
I've got my usual. I'm back on my snapshot in time. What if you picked a month and you say December is our snapshot in time month, and you announce it at the Metro Common meeting, and you say, go out to your communities and tell people to take photographs of their community and send them in to us. We don't care how many or of what, just take them and send them in. And at the end of December, we'll have a visual record of our region. And it could be a fun thing. And then that can be another tool for engagement for communities. And they can go back to their communities and say, hey, we're running a photo contest for this month. Go out and take photos of your favorite places in your community and send them to us or send them to MAPC.
Sam, I guess what I would like to do is see if maybe you and Eric can have a conversation about this, not only the specific recommendation, but what you've raised over the course of the last 10 minutes, and maybe encourage the two of you to see what can be accomplished. I am reluctant, I hope you'll understand, to put any more activities on the Metro Commons staff, because that chart that Lissy showed to you, that's like a completely full up list of activities at the moment.
Understood. Fair enough. It's easy to say this stuff. It's much harder to do it.
Eric, would you be willing to have a conversation with Sam and see what is doable?
Yep, happy to.
Yeah.
I'll follow up, Sam.
Yeah, I think you should translate that into talk him down. You should talk Sam down.
I would never say that.
Now while we're streaming live on YouTube, anyway. Great. And that's actually, Sam, that's actually something that we try and do locally, is that before any big development project goes, we take pictures before, during, and after, just to kind of show progress. Even if it's private projects, I think it's really interesting, and it kind of shows kind of the trajectory of what a block or a look would look like through that kind of process. And people are very visual. So if not through Metro Common, people should do that before, buildings get raised and stuff like that. Because it's really interesting.
I think these things are good ideas. And I am not saying talk Sam down from everything he suggested. I'm just suggesting come up with what can reasonably be done.
Yep, totally.
Right.
Great. Is there any other comments or questions on this topic? Awesome. So
Thank
we
you.
talked about the next officers meeting, which is now November 9th. Thank you, Lizzie and Eric. And then we did the update on the fall council meeting. I think we're at the end here. Is there any other business not known?
Yeah, I
beyond
had,
other
sorry, I
business?
just, sorry,
Oh, go
one
ahead.
thing I realized during the staffing updates, I think as you all are aware, because we sent an email that we were able to do raises, but there were a series of promotions that came with that. And the one that I just want to bring to your
Good point.
attention is a little bit of a restructuring in our Department of Strategic Initiatives. So we have promoted Emily Torres Colonnane to become a co-director with Eric Hove of the Department of Strategic Initiatives. I'm sure you all know Emily. She's been, a fabulous contributor to MAPC for over 10 years now. And, Mark and I both felt like she really deserved to be a director. And we've never tried the co-director piece before, but I think it's an interesting model and I'm excited to see how it works. And additionally, we promoted Carolina Prieto to become the manager of the Community Engagement Division. Carolina served in that role in an intern position when Emily was out on parental leave and, just did a fabulous job. So we're really excited to have them in our management team. So I wanted to let you guys know that.
That's a
And
great
there
update.
are other promotions. We don't have to go through all of them,
No,
but
not all, right. Most of them are,
Rebecca, maybe when you send that out, I know it went to directors. Did it go to staff?
I actually just put the officers on as I
Okay,
was
good.
off
Great.
before doing work. So yeah.
Sandra?
In terms of other business, Mark, you were going to talk briefly about the REMAP program.
Yes. So we went through a lengthy, that's a kind word, process of review of the 22 REMAP applications that we received. And we chose 6 out of those communities. We were going to choose 5 or 6, a little bit stretched to pick 6, honestly, but we did. And those are Bedford, Stoughton, Lynn, Revere, Natick, and Framingham. Pretty well dispersed through the region. There are sort of 2 pairs of communities, if you will, in both north of Boston and in Metro West. We are now working to finalize an orientation date, and prior to the orientation starting, the communities are to finalize their core teams, which are 6 to 12 people, to participate in the program. I think it's going well. It's not the world's easiest partnership. Everyone wants to be involved in all the details, and that can be a little challenging. Rebecca and I are doing, I'm sorry?
Everyone on the staff or?
No, MAPC, GARE, the Government Alliance for Race and Equity, and the Fed. The Fed particularly seems to have a lot of people with the time to be involved in every decision here. So even though each one of them is a wonderful and contributing person, but at some point you just got to get down to providing TA to the communities and developing plans. But the training part is first. So that's the first 4 months. So I'm very excited about it. We're not doing a big press hit on this for the beginning. I would rather do that when we've accomplished something. And given the topic, I feel that's appropriate. And we are also working on ways to share this information with other MAPC communities, and most importantly, to continue to respond to the requests for help and assistance from other MAPC communities on racial equity issues. These are not the only 6 communities who will be helping in this topic area moving forward. So that's a brief update on the plan, on the program.
Thank you. And you had a nice little, MAPC had a nice little write-up about it at the MAPC Monthly Matters newsletter. So that was good.
Publicized it internally.
Yeah. I do read them, so.
Yes, good. I'm glad you do.
Yeah. I'm on a lot of subdivision, sub-region ones too. So I get a lot of them, but that's okay too.
You and me both, Erin. It's when they come out, it's like,
Yeah, they all come out like bum, 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 bum. But I read them. So any other questions or comments on that? Great.
Okay.
Well, one of my favorite times of the day. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion made by Adam.
Second?
Go ahead, Sam. Yep, second made by Sam. Any questions or comments? I gotta say, we're making up for past meetings. We're ending early. I like it. Thank you. All right. Motion made by Adam, a second made by Sam. This requires roll call. Sam,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Adam,
Yes.
and Erin, yes. Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned at 10:19 a.m. Thank you, Sandra, for taking minutes.
Sure.
If you have any questions, you can just ask regarding that. We miss Heidi. I hope she has an uneventful dental appointment. And Sasha, thank you so much for being our tech assistance, Zoom aficionado. We really appreciate it. Okay, great.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And I
Thank you,
hope
everyone.
everyone has a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.